We don't want the kids to grow up and fear police.
We've been wanting to be a part of protests. We've been wanting to speak out against the actions.
All colors out here fighting for Black Lives Matter.
These deaths need to be accounted for.
Who do we stand for?
To be the people, the guardians who we said we would be when we took the oath to serve and protect.
This is a fight that we fought for a very, 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 very long time.
The police department is the community. That's why we're here.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this special edition of WRAL News at 7. I'm Deborah Morgan.
And I'm Gerald Owens. Tonight, we are proud to bring you an important, live, candid conversation with local police chiefs and law enforcement leaders for a discussion you will only see on WRAL. Taking part in this roundtable are police chiefs and leadership from Raleigh, Fuquay-Varina, Morrisville, Holly Springs, and Apex.
Colonel Glenn McNeill, commander of the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, and Wake County District Attorney Lorrin Freeman are also joining us. And helping to facilitate the conversation, community advocate and Cary-based speaker Tru Pettigrew, founder of Tru Access. We thank you all for joining us tonight. We will get back to this group in just a moment. We do want to hit some of the big headlines happening across our area right now. More peaceful protests are scheduled for this evening. This is a live look at Durham. We have Sky 5 and crews on the ground as groups rally there. Things have been peaceful in Durham all week. That city has no curfew. The citywide Raleigh curfew takes effect at 10 o'clock tonight. It's the fourth straight night of curfews in the capital city. Many protesters from recent nights say they plan to be back out again tonight in Raleigh.
Yeah, Raleigh leaders are also meeting right now for a special city council meeting to talk with members of the community. Police Chief Cassandra Deck Brown was asked to attend, which prevented her from attending tonight's roundtable. She and many other chiefs in the area have spent much of their time meeting with the public over the past few days, and as we have seen in Raleigh, Durham, and Fayetteville. Our Keely Arthur is keeping an eye on this meeting, and she'll have an update for us tonight at 10 and 11.
As we said, Tru Pettigrew with Tru Access is a man you have seen many times right here on WRAL. He works with police departments in Western Wake County. His organization helped bring all of them together for tonight's discussion. We hope will be educational, thought-provoking, and insightful.
And many of these topics are sensitive. Some of the answers from police members may be just a simple yes or a no. We want to get through as many questions as we can. Now, Tru, you've been working with each of these leaders for some time now. One of the biggest concerns from the people that we have spoke to in the community is how the black community experiences these departments, especially black men.
Yeah, I have been working with these leaders in their departments for some time now, Gerald, and it was really born out of my own feelings and emotions about my experiences with law enforcement. And all of the law enforcement leaders on this call know that that wasn't always pleasant, which led to this relationship. So what I've realized is the key to someone who at one point did not trust or like members of law enforcement is open and honest dialogue and communication and building relationships to get to know each other on a human level. And that's what helped me to realize that it is doable. And I don't want to oversimplify it, but it really boils down to open and honest dialogue and getting to know each other on a human level and realizing that we all want the same thing. And that's the revelation that I had. And we've done a number of things together. And I've worked with a number of these men and women on this call or on this feed right now. And I'd be curious to ask each of them what has been their experience when doing the work we've done together in the barbershops and in the community to help build those bridges. And I'll start with you, Colonel McNeill. I'm curious because your responsibility is so broad and wide throughout the entire state, whether it's an urban environment, a suburban or rural environment. How do you continue to build those relationships? And what are some of the things that you're doing to make sure that the work that we've been doing stays consistent?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you, WRAL, for the invitation. I am well honored to be here representing the men and women of the North Carolina State Highway Patrol. First of all, I happen to work for two outstanding men, Deputy Secretary Eric Hooks and our Commander-in-Chief, Governor Roy Cooper, who both strongly believe in community involvement, volunteerism, and engagement with our communities. Being selected as the commander of our organization, I had the opportunity to set forth a vision under my tenure as commander. And one of the priorities that I set for our organization was partnership, and community involvement. As law enforcement professionals, we obtain our authority from the people that we strive to serve and protect each and every day. And as a part of the priorities that I set for our organization, we have to work with the communities in a manner that inspires confidence and trust. And the only way to do that is we have to work and get to know the people in our various communities. Since I've been commander, we've tried to partner with absolutely any and everyone who would like to partner with our organization. Organizations such as the Salvation Army, the Ronald McDonald House, Duke's Children's Hospital, the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, the 200 Club of Wake County, Special Olympics, Tru Access. We're trying to do all that we can to show that our personnel are more than just state troopers. They're fathers, their mothers, their sons, their daughters, their deacons. They're very active in their communities. And that's one way that we can better connect with the people that we are striving to serve each and every day, serving as ambassadors for the great state of North Carolina.
Great comments, Colonel McNeill. Let's talk about training. These questions now are for Chief John Letteney with Apex and Captain Jay Bruner with Holly Springs. Is there sensitivity training in your departments? If so, how often is it done? And is it revisited in times like these? Chief Letteney, let's start with you.
Yes, let me echo the Colonel's thanks to WRAL and Tru. It's been great partnerships over many years, and we have built bridges, and we appreciate having that foundation. Training is so very important in what we do in law enforcement, and training and how we carry out our mission in serving the public is at the top of the list of what is important. So it starts at the Basic Academy, the Basic Law Enforcement Training Program, which is referred to as BLET. So there is training right when someone starts in their law enforcement career, and that is enhanced every year while they are in service. The state of North Carolina requires mandatory in-service training every year for all sworn police officers across the state. They mandate certain hours and certain training topics, and then the departments can choose others to build upon that mandated training. One of the training topics each year has something to do with sensitivity training. It may be on minorities, it may be on juveniles, it may be folks with disabilities, it may be some other important topic, but it keeps the subject in front of law enforcement, and it helps us keep aware of all that's going on in making sure we serve our varied populations with sensitivity towards what their needs are and how we interact. From there, departments will go a further step, and we have done that, and several of my colleagues have as well. We partnered with Tru Access several years ago to deliver the cohort training, which is community organizers helping officers restore trust. This is a very comprehensive program that Tru and his team moderate, but it brings in people from the community to sit with us and dialogue, to build bridges, to help each other understand that which we do not understand of our own experience. We started that in 2017. We completed just last year with all officers being trained and certified in that program. And as we hire new officers each year, we will do more sessions, so we are all speaking the same language. And then finally, our professional organizations offer training and also take the lead as well. For example, the North Carolina Association of Chiefs of Police is in the process, and has been actually for quite some months, of developing a racial equity training program that will be delivered at their next conference. The training committee has worked hard, and they've been working on this since their last conference, which was this past January. So there's a lot that's going on in that area, and it reflects our professional associations' commitment to 21st century leadership and delivering law enforcement services. We are also working through that association with the Justice Academy to bring that racial equity training topic to the basic law enforcement training program and enhance that training that's already been provided.
Captain Bruner, about field training, what are your officers trained to do to lower tension during a traffic stop, for example?
So again, to echo what Chief Letteney was stating, their training begins in the academy phase of what they do, and when they come out to field training, is when they get to put some of those verbal de-escalation techniques that they have learned into practice. Mainly with a traffic stop, it's a tense situation for both the officer and the person being stopped. We train our officers to maximize opportunities for communication across the window. We train our officers to professionally tell people why they have been stopped and explain the expectations of the stop, that it may take this long, or this is the documentation that I need. The key there is to keep people informed, and we find that lowers the inherent tension of the stop. They're dangerous situations because of moving vehicles and you know, the likelihood that bad things could happen from the get-go. But you know, our officers are quick to make a determination as to whether or not you know, they're in danger. And again, it's about a collaborative stop. People deserve to know why they're being stopped, what the outcome of the stop is going to be, and every action that the officer takes should be politely explained. We find that decreases the tension overall, and it's worked well for us.
All right, I want to talk more about traffic stops in just a few minutes, but first, the questions and concerns people have following the death of George Floyd. His arrest and chokehold are images that none of us will ever forget. The question is for you, Chief Andrews: is a chokehold something your department is trained to do? And if not, are there any other tactics that have been eliminated from your department?
So chokehold is definitely, that's not in any of our departments within our subject control and arrest techniques. Those are techniques that are taught and mandated by the state of North Carolina. And it's important because they are designed to control someone with minimal to no injury to either the officer or the person that they are engaged with. So short answer, there are no chokeholds.
All right, Chief Fahnestock, let's talk about your department in Fuquay-Varina. Are police officers in your department required to report or stop other officers from acting inappropriately during arrests? And is there an ethics or honor code that speaks to this?
Yes, they are, and we're held to the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics, our policies and laws. And I tell my officers, the time is always right to do what is right. And I encourage them to make sure that they review our policies every year. We have a policy acknowledgement form, so when our policies come out, those officers conduct that review of the policies and sign that they acknowledge, and they're held accountable for that. And I also say you have to inspect what you expect. And our supervisors go on calls with our officers. We review body cameras. We've had body cameras in place since 2017. So yes, they are held to that standard.
All right, Chief Andrews, I want to talk about a traffic stop now. A car, one of your officers pulls up behind someone. What is the most common thing that person will do to escalate that encounter with that officer? And what do you say to the public in that instance?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. But I also think it goes back to both what Chief Letteney and Captain Bruner were saying about the totality of de-escalation, right? It's important that officers are able to maintain and follow what they have been taught at the very beginning of the encounter. So for the public, it's important that we remain calm, that we follow guidance and direction, and always remember. And this is what I tell my daughter and my son, who will be driving in another year. You're never going to win a roadside encounter. You are never, when you engage with an officer, particularly an officer that really is already, for whatever reason, at an elevated awareness, that is a recipe for disaster. That truly is a recipe for disaster. The best thing to do, the smartest thing to do, is to obtain that officer's information. Certainly, ask to speak with a supervisor. If a supervisor is not available, always please let us know. I think it's important that after these encounters, that you are involved in, and you don't believe that the officer performed at a level of professionalism that we expect of all of our men and women in each of our organizations, it's important that you follow the procedures that we've asked you to, and that is to notify us, to file a complaint. And we all have very easy accessible information on each one of our websites to do that.
Well, this is where the legal system may or may not come into play. So Wake County District Attorney Lorrin Freeman is with us tonight. District Attorney Freeman, at what point does your office get involved with an investigation?
Thank you, Deborah. It's an honor to be here this evening with y'all, and I appreciate the opportunity to have these conversations because they're really important. District attorneys in the state are called upon to make determinations as to whether officers have used excessive force and whether the use of that force is a violation of state law. These are very difficult cases. I have had the opportunity, unfortunately, to sit with a lot of families over the 5 years I've been a prosecutor and to try and explain to them how an investigation works and what the outcome of that investigation is. I think there has been universal recognition among law enforcement and prosecutors that what happened to Mr. Floyd was clearly violation of everything that we uphold and what we expect in terms of how our law enforcement officers act. But we are involved in calling in the State Bureau of Investigation, conducting an independent review of the use of force, and making a determination as to what the next steps are.
Deputy Chief Michael Galloway of Raleigh, is there a method by which the public can file complaints or concerns they have with officers? Chief Andrews just addressed that for her city. What about Raleigh?
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank Tru and WRAL for having us. Secondly, I'd like to say that Chief Deck Brown wanted to be here. However, she's dealing with other issues in City Council now. Complaints, firstly, are received internally and externally. If someone wants to file a complaint, they can call us at 919-996-3155. They can come to our police headquarters at 6716 Six Forks Road. They can also file a complaint online at our raleighnc.gov. And lastly, they could write a letter. And upon receiving that complaint, we'll make contact with the complainant. We'll investigate it, and if it's merited, we'll contact the DA's office, and then they'll provide an outcome.
So what about that outcome? Is there a potential to have an officer pulled off the streets with such complaints?
Absolutely. If the complaint is substantiated, the officer could be pulled off the streets and placed on administrative leave pending further investigation.
All right, we want to shift the conversation now to profiling in general. And we have heard from black men all over, young, old, and in the middle. When they're pulled over or stopped for any reason, many of them are worried of how they'll be treated simply because of the color of their skin. Tru, you're a member of this community. I know this has happened to you. How do we make sure that this changes for our next generation, for your children and mine, if not before then?
You're absolutely right, Gerald. It has happened to me. At least that has been my belief, that it's happened to me. And a lot of other black men that I know, most black men that I know, have had the same experience or felt the same way. And it is frustrating. And I've talked about this with all of the law enforcement leaders represented here. I've had conversations about that with Chief Desmond of Cary, which is where I reside. And she was invited to be here. She extends her apologies for not being able to be here. She had something else that she had to tend to, but she wanted to be here as well. And I've had those conversations. Here's the deal. So it's a little more comfortable for me because I've been able to build relationships in this region. But that doesn't change the fact that I still believe it can happen to me if I am somewhere that hasn't evoked the trust that I have because of the familiarity and the relationships with the departments in this region. And so it's real. And I've had that candid conversation with every one of the people on this screen and on this monitor. And I don't know the answer to that. And I'll toss this over to Colonel McNeill. I'm sure anyone can answer it, but when I think of the State Highway Patrol, that's the, You guys do that a lot, Colonel. So is there a way to monitor racial, you don't do the racial profiling a lot, but you pull people over a lot. So is there a way to monitor racial profiling? And if so, are there consequences for officers if you believe that that's something that they're guilty of?
Yes, and I do. First of all, as a parent, I'm on your panel as commander of the State Highway Patrol, but I'm also a father. I have 3 teen children that are also young and new drivers. And so I'm always going to be concerned about their safety and their well-being if they ever stop in a traffic stop. But for my organization and to address racial profiling, we have it's a multifaceted approach. First of all, through strong policies. Day one, we have ethical and organizational values. And the goals of these values are a sincere commitment to justice and diversity while maintaining the ethics of the patrol through honor, respect, and moral courage. In that same policy, we have a code of professional ethics that provides general rules for performance and a basic objective to encourage the fair and impartial enforcement of our laws and the protection of individual rights. But where the rubber meets the road on a day in and day out, how we hold our people accountable to make sure that we don't violate this is each week we have something called a RMS, Records Management System, where each week the activities of our state troopers, their citations, all of their contact with the public, warrants that they may have served, warning tickets, their videos, all these things are downloaded and they're reviewed by a supervisor. Again, ways to screen and to monitor misbehavior. Additionally, each documented use of force and patrol vehicle chase incident is reviewed by the immediate supervisor and by a review board in Raleigh, inclusive of all the reports and video recordings. And so we hold our accountable in a multifaceted way. But we want to hear from the public. We have something on our website called Comment on a Trooper. That's on our patrol website. We want to hear public concerns. We want to hear concerns from the citizens. They can submit good comments, bad comments, but most importantly, they can submit allegations of misconduct. Each comment is reviewed, responded to, and investigated when needed. Complaints don't have to be in writing. They can be as simple as a phone call, a visit to a patrol office, a visit to here at patrol headquarters here in Raleigh. But one of the most important things is we strongly encourage the public to share with us how our state troopers are performing day in and day out. And we need that feedback from the public to be able to hold them accountable for doing a very dangerous job.
No, thank you for your response to that, Colonel. And if I may, Gerald, just quickly, that's from a state highway patrol perspective. Does that differ, Chief Letteney, from a local municipality? Because the concern remains the same, right? I don't, as a community member, don't distinguish, whether I'm on a highway or if I'm in Apex or Raleigh or Morrisville. Does that differ in a local municipality? Like, how do you handle racial profiling? If do you have a way to detect that? And if so, would you let someone go because of that?
Yes and yes. So does it differ? Not very much, because the leaders you see in front of you have a like mind and a like philosophy that we are going to deliver the best service we can. And that starts, again, getting back to training, but it starts with indoctrinating our staff in our mission, our philosophy, and our culture. For us, which is that we deliver professional public safety services to ensure the rights and dignity of all people. When we have that culture and then we have accountability for it, we have a much less chance that someone will go out of those bounds. We expect, we practice, we train, and we hold accountable for bias-free policing. One of the main ways that we do that is every police officer statewide should be filling out a traffic stop report for every traffic stop, which documents the stop, what happened with the stop, the outcome, and then the demographics, basic demographics of the driver and passengers. That goes into a records management system, as the Colonel mentioned. We review those, so they're checked by their supervisor, but then on a monthly basis, we print out a department-wide summary. It goes to supervisors, and we look at the demographics around the stops and look for anomalies. And then we hold our people accountable. We will investigate, we will review, we will determine if they are practicing bias-free policing in line with our mission and our values. And if they are not, we have an internal complaint process as well, and we will put that in place, and we will take appropriate action. We do not want officers who are biased representing this law enforcement agency or any other in this region.
Chief Andrews, I have a question for you. Thank you, Tru. As we are watching a live protest in Durham, one of our reporters talked to a young woman there at the protest yesterday, and Chief Andrews, she said that she is afraid to call the police. She knows of other people in the community who may be beaten in their homes and are afraid to call police. When you hear that, what goes through your mind?
It is devastating, because we should be the ones out of anyone that people want to run to and that trust, you know, and it is, it's devastating. What it also means to me is that we do have a long way yet to go. We have a long way yet to go. And what I would say to her or to anyone that's afraid to call the police is that we are here. You can have trust in our officers, in their training, in our policies and procedures. We are here, and any one of us would be more than happy to sit down and have a conversation one-on-one. You know, this is the very basic model of building bridges, right? Is to really speak to the heart, to meet people where they are, as Tru always says. But that's what we must do.
So important.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Now, this conversation is going to continue for another 30 minutes on our digital platforms. We're going to talk about body cameras and police department morale and answer some of your questions.
Head to WRAL.com, the WRAL News app, or the WRAL streaming apps for Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV. We will also have a recap tonight on our news at 10 on Fox 50 and 11 on WRAL. Have a great night, everyone.